And welcome back to day 45 of Survivor 46 and 46. D just won Survivor 45 in one of my favorites of all time. And we're going to talk about that as this progresses. We're joined once again today by Ryan and a newcomer to this. We have Hart. Thank you both for joining on the last day of us doing a panel like this, and we'll go right into it. Hart, the new era of Survivor, it's very polarizing. I've
Mhm.
always fallen on the more of the positive end of the fandom when it comes to that. I'm not one of these gatekeepers, but specifically with 45, what was your interest level going into the season, and did those expectations survive throughout, or did you think it was shit?
So I'm very big into like the old school seasons. So like because of that, like going into the new era, I'm kind of like, what do I expect with this? There's 874 advantages. Like what's gonna happen here? So, but the start was not the best. Obviously, it was kind of hard to get through. It was a long slaw of that pre-merge. But once we hit the merge, my excitement really grew with it, and I think that the merge portion of this game really like made it amazing and one of my personal favorites of the new era.
Yeah, and for me, and I'll give my rating at the end of this, but I felt like the pre-merge, yeah, kind of dragged at certain points. The fact that they merged and still had to do two boots before they got to the jury was a bit weird. But I don't think that it like totally hindered my watching experience this time around as compared to pre-merges of seasons in the past, specifically the late 30s for the most part and like 43. Ryan, I know when we talked last week, you mentioned that you knew someone from this season. Um, did that up your interest level? How are you feeling going into the season?
Right. So for me, 45, I was so incredibly hyped because somebody that I had previously met in college in our college like Survivor Club had made it onto the season, and we hadn't heard from this person since they graduated. So we were all super excited to like watch somebody from our club actually make it onto the show. And just as it was getting closer and closer to the premiere date, we were getting more information like 90-minute episodes and like intros coming back. And this, the hype was so much going into it. And I think I know a lot of people might not like the pre-merge, but I actually really enjoyed the pre-merge. I think the pre-merge of 45, and I know you're going to discuss 46 tomorrow, but one parallel they have is that one tribe just gets absolutely decimated. And I feel like what gives the edge to the 45 pre-merge for me is that it doesn't just focus on one person. We kind of get to see the downfall of many people in a row, kind of like this tragic, kind of like a Philippine style, where I really enjoyed it more than maybe most might. I don't know if other people might agree with that assessment, but I think as we got into the merge, it was kind of, we kind of got to see a semblance of a dominant alliance kind of taking over. So maybe that those few episodes were not that great in my opinion, but as we are getting closer to the finale, it was kind of like, all right, Reba 4 has made it to final 6. How's it going to play out from here? And just the game, we'll talk about it later, but the gameplay at that point really piqued my interest once again.
Just to go off this comment, who do you know?
Brando.
Brando. But we can kind of just jump to that pre-merge because the pre-merge, since all three of us have now brought it up, we can talk about it because, and I talked about this with seasons like Pearl Islands or Cagayan or David versus Goliath, where these are looked at historically as top tier seasons. Yeah. And one thing they all have in common is there is a quit in every single one of them. And it doesn't hinder the season like quits do in Nicaragua, for instance. No one cares that there are quits at the beginning of the season. It doesn't. I've never heard someone hate on the season because of the quits as they do with Nicaragua. And I think it's because, and I haven't heard any people hate on the season despite the fact that there are still so many twists and so many advantages that are in this game. I feel like the season and the cast kind of rescues the season from falling into a Game Changers type hole of, okay, Game Changers has a lot of twists and a lot of things happen in the season that we're not fans of. Here, it's rescued because of the cast and because of the gameplay. Hart, for you, do you understand? How do I want to phrase this? We're now in an era where it's advantage heavy, and I don't think that it's going anywhere.
No.
Do we feel like it's the cast that ultimately makes these seasons, or do you think that even in cases there are still times where advantages and twists can hinder it despite a great cast? Does that make sense?
No, I totally get what you're saying. I think it's a little bit of mixture of both. Now, I think the Survivor super fans out there, I think they're going to critique everything that happens in the game and say why this shouldn't happen or why this should happen. The casual fans, though, might really be enticed by all of the advantages that are coming out there. I don't think that having too many advantages will like hinder a season, though. I think it's like there doesn't need to be 17 idols. Like there doesn't need to be that many. But is it making the episode entertaining? Now, something like I said, I don't want to talk about 46 too much, though, but we just saw a bunch of people get idols and a bunch of people get voted out because of that. Now, did that make that entertaining? Depends who you're asking. I just think it's a matter of opinion with it.
Ryan?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of advantages, I think Survivor 45 does a great job of kind of, obviously it's a new era, there's still going to be a lot of advantages, but they do turn it down a lot in compared to 44, and a lot of the gimmicky twists that I didn't like in 44 were thankfully removed in 45. I feel like the only thing we really saw in 45 that I maybe wasn't a big fan of upon its introduction was the amulet twist with the sandwiches. We'll get into that probably later. But I do think like just the way the game plays out, it does kind of save the twist in the way that those advantages are kind of used later down the road. So I'm personally not turned off by the twist in this season itself. But I do agree with your point that the cast is ultimately what does make the season. And, it's rare that a good cast can be ruined by bad twists or quits. So I think this season is just a great testament to great new era casting and just letting the players play the game the way it should be.
See, I love the amulet personally. I love the amulets. I think they're great though because it's an advantage that makes you have to strategize around it. And that's what I like to see though. If someone's just getting handed an extra vote or a steal a vote out of nowhere, that's when I'm kind of like, do we really need this? But the amulet though, like you really saw how with the Kelly boost specifically, which I still think is one of the best blind sides of the new era, and I'm sure we'll get into that. Like that definitely, I can't remember if it really talked about it that much though, but you can definitely see that had something to do with Austin wanting to start Kelly because he gets an idol.
She took my sandwich or something like that. It's like, yeah, dude.
He's very vengeful on the sandwich, but yeah.
And I do agree. I think that at this point in the new era, I don't know where I was going with it. At this point in the new era, I've just kind of become accustomed to, hey, they're going to introduce this, or they're going to do this differently this time. We've had Mergatory, but this time with Mergatory, the first two people that get voted out will not make the jury, and we kind of go from there. Sifu robbed. But at the end of the day, and someone brought it up in the comments, it doesn't matter because this cast is so good. Besides 42, for me, this is the best cast since David versus Goliath. And before that, we're talking San Juan del Sur. As far as newbie casts, this is a top tier cast and on a top tier season with a top tier winner. And let's talk about D, because I haven't done many hot takes during these first 45 days. Not only do I think that D is a top 10 winner, in my opinion, but I think that she is a better winner than some folks' favorite winner, Parvati Shalhoub, especially because watching it like this, if you watch Micronesia, all the big moves that are being pulled by Natalie, Sari, Alexis, and Amanda. Parvati is a part of the alliance. She is a member. Parvati's best game is heroes versus villains. Micronesia, she just ends up in a situation where she's sitting next to Pout-Face Kemmel, and all she has to do is not moan and mope through tribal, and she's probably going to win. I felt like Dee had full control for most of this game, and she even says a lot of that comes with luck. She ends up on a tribe that doesn't really lose much. On the swap, she was still in a great spot. At the merge, everyone wanted her, and they were all clocking her as a threat and never really got a chance to get rid of her. She had a simp in one hand and a mom in the other hand, and was able to go to the end. And yes, this is the closest final tribal we've had since Island of the Idols. But for me, Dee is top 10, and she ain't number 10, and she's up there for me. Hard, we don't. Sadly, we don't get dominant female winners, because usually if a female is looked at as dominant, or looked at as bitchy, or they get rid of her.
Yeah.
What was it about Dee this season that was that she could utilize to get to the end? And where do you put her on your personal, if you even have a list, but like just in your head, where do you put her among the greats?
So I think what Dee did really good was that, like I said, she had the Reba 4, so she was in a good position within that. But I think what she did, though, was that she made sure that she was not being the person looked at until she needed to be the person being looked at for the jury to see it. So I think Dee really came to light that, oh, wow, she might win. I don't think anybody early merge said, oh, Dee's going to win this game. At least I didn't. But I think mid-merge, that's when it's like, oh, wow, Dee's got game. And I think that final 7 round, she played that beautifully. And every round after that, she played amazingly. And I think she only got 1 vote casted against her in that final 5, if I'm correct, if I'm wrong.
Final 5. No, she got 2 votes cast against her the whole season, I think. One was a rogue vote during the Seafood didn't go home round. Who went home that round?
Sean.
Sean went home that round.
But but she really turned it around throughout that end game, though, and I think she came to light at the right time, because what's happening a lot in Survivor these days is one person makes a big move, then they go home. It's you take out the biggest of every round, and she made sure that wasn't going to happen to her. I don't know if I'd put her ahead of Parvati, but I would say that she is the best winner of the new era by far. Not even a question. And I'd probably put her, I don't have a list, but I'd probably put her top 15.
Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree that Dee is a really strong winner. And I love what you said about her kind of making moves, but not being the big guy to be seen. Like we see once we hit the merge, it's, oh, Caleb is the big threat. We got to get rid of Caleb. After Caleb goes, oh, Kelly, everyone likes her. We got to get rid of her next. And then, oh, look, guys, Bruce has an idol. We need to get rid of Bruce. And it's just like keeps going. But she never really makes herself like the biggest fish to be fried. There's always people ahead of her. I kind of see it kind of like an Adam Klein type of play, except from the dominant position instead of kind of playing from the bottom. And it's what I really like about her. I know Drew, you mentioned that she kind of holds control kind of the whole way through. I think personally, I'm a big fan of Drew, and I think Drew and her kind of shared control most of the way through the post-merge. But nonetheless, I still think she played a great game, and I agree that I do think she's a better winner than Parvati. Parvati's a bit overrated, in my opinion. But yeah, Dee plays really well. Like I think there's a perfect example of like what we've been seeing in the new era, where it's like kind of just maintaining a good position the whole way through, and then once you get to that end game, it's just executing a couple of those game-winning moves that you can take with you to the jury and say, hey, like I was good the whole way through, and then this is my game-winning move that's going to help me win the season. And that's kind of like the trend we've been seeing. Like you don't need to hold control the entire way through, as long as you just have just those couple moments to really help you accelerate you past other people sitting next to you. I think that was enough. And she did it in really fashion. So
she kneecaps Austin at Final Tribal with the whole, oh yeah, I didn't tell you this, but yeah, I told Julie, you fool. And in that moment, it's like, okay, well, if you didn't think she was going to win she's definitely winning now. And even when the votes were coming through, and when the votes were being read this time, I even said to Hart, like, yeah, like I thought this was going to be a tie the first time I watched this. It was just the way the votes were being read. It's like, oh my God, they're going to tie this. And I don't know where Jake is going to go in the situation. And then ultimately, it's, D wins, and it's not a blowout. And I think I'm still a little confused why some of the votes went Austin's way. Not to say that he played horrible. I think they all three of them had a great final tribal. I think that D had a better final tribal than both. But I think that even Jake was able to, tell his story. And his story, we're going to talk about Jake in a second. I want to touch on this because I have touched on this for the last however many days, sort of. Can you compare 26 days to 39 days? For me, because they are playing 26 days without anything. We're to the point where they're just basically dying out there for the pre-merge. I can compare it because I feel like the strain on the body that they are dealing with is comparable to the people playing 39 days but are given pot, machete, rice, all of that to start off. They are starting off with literally nothing, and in one tribe's case, don't get anything until day 9, day 10. So for me, I can make very strong comparisons. How do I want to phrase this? Yeah, I can make very strong comparisons to the two, and I think that this is the most overrated reason to hate the new era. Is it's 26 days. It's like, who gives a shit? We're still getting 13 episodes. We're still getting, the social strategic aspect of the game. The only reason that people, at least from where I'm sitting, the only reason it seems like people don't like it is because Survivor fans are turning into Star Wars fans, and they've become gatekeepers, and they don't like change. That's it. At least from where I'm sitting. Talking about Austin, for me, Austin was kind of just here most of the pre-merge, and I think that, like a lot of people, the game picked up at the merge, and I feel like his character as a whole picks up at the merge. What were y'all's thoughts on Austin?
I mean, Austin was a really interesting character for me because I feel like he's somebody that, in my opinion, has such like innate social abilities that he's just kind of able to just find himself in the right position at the right time, whether it's with alliances or even like with getting advantages. But I don't know if he has necessarily the strategic mind to back it up. Like I feel like all the big moves that we saw in the game were either pulled off by Drew or by D. And I feel like Austin kind of gets looped into them as part of this alliance, but I don't really know how much strategic input he really has in that group, especially when you look at how the final 7 and final 6 rounds play out. It's like, how can you really say this guy's a great strategic player when he plays both those rounds so poorly? I don't really know how much merit I'd give him. And I was surprised that, the 3 votes he did get at Final Tribal, I assume were because of how good his social capabilities were. And I do believe that Austin was the most socially well-positioned player in the game, but it's just not having those social connections. You have to do something with it in a way that positively impacts your game in a way that you can present it to a jury. And I think that's just really where he fell flat for me.
But I think Austin could have done the same exact thing that D did, where Austin wasn't seen as the strategic force that needed to be taken out at the early merge. Let's get the final 7. He made the one mistake. If he does not tell D about that, Julie more than likely goes home because she gets blindsided. And then Austin, Austin can take like control of the game from that point. In my personal opinion, I think he can. And he had the opportunity to take control, and he had the opportunity to stick with the showmans, and he stuck with the showmans, and they killed his game. I don't think he's a terrible strategic player. I just don't think he thinks long term about things.
I think even to your
I adore Austin, and all my friends know that. So
even like to your point of like Austin possibly, if he doesn't tell D, and then they take out Julie, and then they're heading to the final 6, and now he has more control over the game. Does he even get control? Like, I feel like maybe even Drew can kind of usurp the power at that point and kind of take advantage of him at that point and just kind of ride his way to the end. Like you said, Austin, I don't know how far ahead he's really looking into the future, more so than just like, well, how is this going to impact me right now? Like when he was explaining why he had to tell D about that plan. He said, well, if I don't tell D, she'll never trust me again. But it's like, once Julie's gone, who cares about D? She's one person. You're connected to every other person in the game. Like, why is this one connection so important to you? And I feel like it shows no.
Oh, did he freeze? Did he freeze on your end?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Because he's
going
frozen, I do want to touch on the showman's aspect of it. Ryan, so you froze at the end there. Do you want to finish your thought? I think he froze again. Okay, so the showman, it's crazy because of, obviously this is going to harken back to the last thing I just talked about, the 26 days. Well, they're sitting at Final Tribal and Austin goes, "Oh yeah, I didn't really start to get feelings for her until day 20." And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, this showmance has been going on for 6 days? It feels, because in my head their showmance was going on for at least like 5-6 episodes.
Oh yeah.
So when it is day 20 is when the feelings really start to show up. It's like, oh, okay. I guess that's true. Yeah. For me, and I know D says at Final Tribal that the feelings were real. And I do think to a certain point they were. But I also think that she was very much playing him too.
1,000%.
Yeah. And I do feel like she gave the right answer when asked about it at Final Tribal, because she can't say that I'm playing him. But I think that she was. But I also think that, I think that they had real romantic feelings for each other. Like that's very hard not to. They are both very attractive people. Go ahead.
I think anybody who goes out and does a showmance on Survivor is doing it for both purposes. To have a showmance and to like better your game. Because if you have a showmance, though, that person's going to stick by you the entire time. But to go off this point, though, because this keeps coming up, the 26 versus 39 days, no player in the new era is going to say, oh, they added it's 39 days now? I'm not playing. It's 13 extra days. I'm not doing that. They all will still do it. It's not their fault that that's what the game decides. We can't fault them for that. So blame COVID, if anything. Don't blame the players.
To the point of 26 days versus days, and I'm assuming this point is being brought up in terms of, discrediting winners as being less, they played less. Like, at the same time, like, 26 days shortening the game, like, increases the pacing of the game. Like, it makes it, like, you have less time to form those bonds that may carry further. And, like, even if you can argue that 26 days is easier, like, while you're playing 26 days, so is the rest of your competition. So when it's like a change that like changes equally for everyone, it's hard to say like, oh, well, this person didn't do it as well as this person, when your competition is really what you should be comparing the winner to. So if everyone else is playing at that same stage, it's hard to say like, well, they didn't do it to the same ability as this other winner.
Yeah, Tina Weston's the greatest winner of all time because she played on 42 days. If we're using that, yeah, because she won a season with 42 days. Keith, third place in Australian Outback, is better than every winner ever because he played more than 39 days. Like the days don't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But as we move on, I would say that I disagree with this only because Austin's fans aren't annoying. That's really the only defense I have, is I don't mind Austin fans. Sanders fans once again started a GoFundMe because they were so hurt that he didn't win Survivor 41, that they tried to raise $1 million for him to win because he was the robbed god. Austin,
wait, really?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. The Facebook moms were in an uproar when Xander lost. It was sad to watch, to be honest. But okay. So I'm being facetious about. I do agree that the two of them, I would say, are pretty similar. But I do feel like Austin had better.
The biggest difference for me was that Austin was in the dominating majority alliance. He was part of that group that was running the game, where I feel like Xander was kind of on the outside, and he was just like, whoever wants to use me for a plan, I'm here to use me. Whereas he did not have those social connections or the social capital to create the same plans that maybe Austin could have.
Right. Xander's closer to Jake. Xander's closer to Jake. Which we can talk about Jake. Because I really this time around, I mean, I liked him the first time, but this time around, I really enjoyed him from beginning to end. And it really starts with the Caleb boot, that Jake's journey of just, he's just swimming up Schitt's Creek without a paddle the entire second half of the game. And he has a lot of moments where he's very vulnerable with the fact that, hey, his awareness is great. Like, he knows what is going on as far as how he's being perceived. He knows that his name is probably always going to be out there. He knows that he's probably going to be told stuff last second. He knows that most ideas that he comes up with were probably not going to be the ideas that are used. Yet he keeps trying to find a spot to do something. And I think the jury, they gave him his props for that. I believe Drew said, the fact that you were still trying to do things, even though they weren't working, I think that is a testament to Jake as the game player and Jake as the character. Because Jake as the character, they brought it up in the chat earlier, is very Charlie Brown-esque. And you just want to root for him because it's like, at some point, something's going to work for this guy. And nothing ever works for this guy. To the point where it becomes comically sad. It's not even funny at a certain point. It's like, wow, I really feel for him. And you can tell Jeff is not a fan most of the time. And it's like, Jeff looks like he's annoyed with Jake, which is weird. Jake, are we a fan?
All right, so I promised all my friends I'd be nice. So, because I know a few people are watching this and they know I don't like Jake that much. But he annoyed me on this. I was like Jeff Probst. He really annoyed me.
Okay.
But no, I did feel bad though from a gameplay stance though, because he, like I said, other than like a lot of the third placers, he tried. He wanted to make a move. Now, granted, he shouldn't have won, obviously, for that, but he tried to make a move every single time. And he was like, I love the Charlie Brown reference though. Like, everybody took the football away from him, especially at Final Five though, when he knew D had to go. And what happened with Katura, switching it out for no reason, still to this day. I still don't know why she did that. Didn't make any sense to me. But I think Jake is there like for character purposes. He's there for confessional. So from that aspect, I think Jake is great for television. But yeah, his gameplay definitely and I wonder what would happen though if he did get into like majority like right at the beginning though, because he just got knocked down after knockdown after knockdown. We never saw him in a power spot, so we don't know what he could do. So
yeah. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, when you and I were talking about Survivor Ghost Island, there was a lot of comparison made between Jake and Donathan. We were talking about players who were just trying to get something rolling but couldn't quite get it into the right position. And I've always been I've always been one to believe that Survivor is mostly luck. I don't know how much is strategic or social or physical, but I do think Survivor is at least 51% luck. Because sometimes if you just start in the wrong spot, it's not going to work out for you no matter what you do. And I think one moment that really made me empathize with Jake was that one day where he was sitting on the beach and he was just crying. And I forgot who came up to him, but someone approached him and just pretty much asked him what was wrong. And he said, I know that I haven't been playing well. And I know I can't win the game. And I think it takes a great level of not only courage, but also self-awareness to be able to come to terms with that and just keep trying to make the moves. I know during the season, there was a lot of comparison being made between Jake and Owen. I think the biggest difference between the two of them for me was that I feel like Owen was just struggling to try to stay in the game and just be a part of the plan. While I feel like Jake was more so trying to make the plans, even if it wasn't working.
I think that's a great way to word it, though. I think that's exactly right, though. I think Owen was just trying to maintain himself in the game while Jake was trying to take control of the game. So I do agree with that, though. I think really the only thing that Jake really did significantly wrong was the Final Four challenge where he just stepped all over it and broke it. I mean, that was just ridiculous. But other than that, though, like I said, you got to give him credit, though. He tried. Like I said, it's not a game-winning gameplay, but he tried his best to make a move, and nobody was biting.
Donathan was someone that had a punchable face. No, Nick Wilson has the Donathan face because everyone that knows the meme about, okay, if you don't know the meme about Nick Wilson and Donathan, go look it up. Other players on the season, I mean, this, like we keep saying, cast is stacked. We get Bruce 2.0. And I didn't talk about Bruce at all yesterday because he lasted for 12 hours. I did feel for him, and I remember when it was announced that Bruce was going to be on this season. I'm like, oh, cool. They're going to do half newbies, half returnees. And then it's like, oh, no, it's not. It's going to be just Bruce. I'm like, I don't buy that because that'd be crazy to put one person on a cast of all newbies because they're going to target him first. It's easier when you have two, like we get in Guatemala and others, because it almost comes off as a captain's season. Here, it's just one guy. And to Bruce's credit, he survives late into the game, even after losing Kelly. Bruce, for me, was the funniest part about Bruce this season is his one-sided rivalry with Katurah, with Katurah just her entire character arc kind of ends when Bruce leaves. Katurah just kind of falls into the background once Bruce leaves. Yep. So we could talk about them as the rivalry, but if you want to talk about the individual characters as well, please go ahead. Hart, what did you think about this one-sided rivalry, and what did you think about Bruce 2.0?
First off, I think they should have done more returns. I think they should have done 3 returnees, kind of like they did in Philippines. Give us Bruce, give us Pat Cusack, and give us Courtney Moon, all first boot medevacs, like iconic. Let's do it. But I think bringing him back by himself, though, you're putting him, even though he only played for like 5 minutes, like you're still putting a target on his back because he was there, and everyone knows he was there. But him in general, though, he was definitely came out like, and he was like, I'm not going to lead this tribe. I'm just going to play it like everybody else does. And then he starts leading the tribe. I mean, of course, that's the way the edit made it look. But I think that I liked him as a character. I think he knew kind of quickly, though, that at some point it was going to turn on against him. But I liked him from a character standpoint a lot. And then the whole Katurah thing, I still don't understand why Katurah was against Bruce at all. It didn't make any sense to me. But you're right, though. She did completely die off once he was gone. She had nothing else to show on the camera other than that fight or that rivalry.
Ryan, do you know why Katurah? Besides the fact that he was annoying, I don't think Bruce was annoying necessarily. I can see how people might be annoyed with him while he is out there. But just him with his little dances and everything and him saying, oh yeah, I'm not the dad. And then immediately turning into the dad. But he's like, oh yeah, just call me Uncle Bruce. The fact that he's in a pretty good duo with Kelly. I also think that Ryan froze again. So that's the only reason I'm rambling. Bruce is he kind of stands out this season because everyone else is this is the second Kumbaya cast that we've gotten in a row, and I'm all right with it because I know what's happening next and how much they hate each other in 46. But I really enjoyed the Kumbaya nature of this season, and it always felt like Bruce was kind of off to the even when he was in on stuff, it's just it just felt like he wasn't. In my head, they're two separate entities. It's everybody else and there's Bruce. Is that a weird thing to say?
No, because I think everyone kind of saw him as a polarizing character to begin with, and it could have been because he played before, even though for how short it was, or could it have been just his personality wanting to be in the leadership role, some of that. I'm not sure, but I will say though, I don't think this season was as kumbaya as 44. So I didn't see this season I understand in the finale, yes, but Drew was PO'd to go, Kelly was PO'd to go. I don't know if I can say the other that fully. Oh, I don't know if I can cuss him.
Yeah, you're good.
But, yeah, so I think everyone was respected the game though, but I didn't see it as kumbaya. 44 was ridiculously kumbaya and drove me crazy. As much as I love 44,
I was gonna say,
but 45, yeah, I was kind of okay, there's some rivalries out here, but then once they're out there, okay, let's have beer. So.
Yeah, they're treating it as a game and they're respecting game, and you could tell that these are game players who can respect and appreciate when things happen. Kelly even says once she calms down for a second, she's like, "That was a good move, but what the hell?" And then
I would do this if I played, which I don't want to. If I played, I would do the same exact thing. I would literally look at everybody as menacingly as I could for being voted off, walk down the path and be yeah, it's fine. So, no big deal. I just want to show them
yeah, and so going off of this, we can ask this question: if you were voted out Survivor, what do you think the reason might be? Ryan?
I mean, if I was voted out Survivor, well, there's two ways I see it going. One way is I see it the less likely way is that I'm voted out for being a big strategic threat, which is unlikely. But I think the more likely way I'm voted out is because I'm kind of like, I don't want to say like a Bruce, but kind of just somebody who isn't really able to connect socially as well as these other like really cool, fun, like the Reba tribe. Like, I wouldn't be able to fit in with the Austin and D's of the group. I think I might be able to come in like a Drew and maybe show that side, but I think lack of social connection built in the first couple of days would be the reason why I would be voted out. So I don't know.
Hard.
So for me, like I said, I know orgs and Survivor are like 1,000% different. So like I only have that to go off of though, and I know from that what I'm told by a lot of people is you struggle to hide your threat level. So I'm just gonna say that's probably why I would go home in actual Survivor too. Like if I was making moves, I'd be like kind of like Emily did after the Bruce move, and she just came back to
Yeah,
that's what I did. I did this and this. Boom. I'm like, great. You got voted off right away. That'd be me.
We're gonna get to Emily in a second, but for me, it would be I socially I'm very liked. But it's true. Like I'm really good at relating to folks, and I would say that in this season, the person that I could compare myself most to would probably be Caleb, as just someone that can just get along with everyone, talks with a lot of confidence. Is self-aware enough to know that, hey, I probably should stop, being so friendly and nice, but like also can't turn that off. So I would say, and we see what happens to Caleb. They basically target him once and then target him pretty much the next round. I know that Sifu goes in the middle there, but Emily, on a cast full of amazing characters. I remember the first time I watched this season, and she says what she says to Bruce on the boat, and I'm like, I hate this woman. I hate her so much. And then as soon as they get to camp and they are talking about conspiracy theories, specifically with the pyramids, and she's just looking at them with like, I hate all of you. I'm like, yes, Emily, I do too, because I don't like conspiracy theories. As a history person, I can't like conspiracy theories. And she's like, I can't vibe with any of these people. I'm like, I wouldn't either, Emily. I get it. And then she's also very self-aware enough to realize, I know how I come off, and I don't know how to turn that off right now. And I think as the season progresses, she is able to, and she becomes, I would say, a viable threat to win the game. I loved Emily this time around. Ryan, what were your thoughts on Emily?
I mean, I agree with what you said about her basically hating her on the boat when she pushes back against Bruce, which, I mean, come on, in Bruce's defense, like, is he really a threat? He's there for 12 hours. He didn't really do anything, but sometimes it felt like she was just speaking up just for the sake of having a rebuttal to say, and maybe that is what pushed people the wrong way. But I found her to be surprisingly relatable for somebody who I might not seemingly have a lot in common. I related to her in a sense of her self-awareness and recognizing that, hey, like, I have these qualities that other people might not like. So maybe I can work on myself and maybe change that to put myself in a better position. And I think it works out very well for her. Now, granted, I do think she gets very lucky that there's someone like Caleb on her tribe to really just reach out and give her that olive branch and say, hey, like, I'm willing to work with you, because Caleb is somebody who can basically get his hands on anyone he wants, right? Like, he's going to do whatever he can to get the numbers on his side. So I feel like that worked out really well for her. And just with that survive vote, I think it just cemented, like, kind of like rising from the ashes of those first couple of days of maybe not fitting in that well, and then kind of putting herself in a position where she's, at the swap, deciding who goes home between Bello and Reba. And then from that point on, she's basically positioned herself in a perfect spot coming into the merge. And I think she just maybe makes her threat level a little bit too high while having a good story to where she's ultimately sniped out. And I mean, like, she's really shouldn't even have gone home in that case. It's really due to Austin. And I feel like a little bit of resentment on my end towards Austin. And I feel like he screws over a lot of people in the game. But yeah, I feel like she could have had, I do agree that she was like a big threat to win the game.
Hart, you want to piggyback?
Yeah. First off, I don't know who said it though, but somebody reminded me in the comments about why Katura didn't like Bruce. So thank you, whoever said that. But yeah, so I think Emily had one of the best turnarounds of a character, like maybe even since like Kathy Vavrick O'Brien in Marquesas. like who was at the bottom and turned her complete game around. And Emily, you saw in the first couple of episodes, you're like, she's gone. She ain't lasting. Like, I'm not going to get behind her. She's going to leave. But then once the third episode happened and she helped with Caleb on the Sabaya thing, and she started like working on her social game and said like, I need to recognize all these things and work on myself. Then I'm like, wow, she's turning around. And then she kept turning around and it kept getting better and better and better. And I'm like, she has a good chance to win. And she really grew on me. She's one of my favorites from this cast. Like I said, I think her fatal flaw was kind of like what I was saying earlier, was when she went back to camp and explained how she did the Bruce move to make sure he didn't play his idol. I'm like, don't save that for FTC if you make it. Don't say it right now. Just be like, yeah, we did it, guys. Good job. And then get out of there.
Yeah,
but I adore Emily. I would love to see her come back for Survivor 50. I've heard rumors that she doesn't want to play again, which breaks my heart, but I would love to see her play again if she ever decides to.
Question: What do you think about the only reason we got the incredible redemption arc is because Hannah quit the first round? It's very, and both of them have brought up luck. I think all three of us have brought up luck. It's the same exact thing in David versus Goliath, where Nick Wilson is probably going home first if we don't get a medevac right there. You know, things just kind of happen sometimes. You know, we can even go. You know, does Fabio win Nicaragua if Nyanka and Kelly are aren't on the jury? No, he wouldn't. Like, it's just, there's a lot of things that, and that's why, you know, when I always have to preface by saying my opinion on winners and this and the other, because it is there should never be anyone that says definitively this is a horrible winner, this is and says as if it's because there's so much luck that goes into it. If Tom's gaslighting abilities weren't great, does Ian jump off at final 2 or final 3 of Palau? No. Tom's a textbook gaslighter. I know I keep bringing up Tom recently. I don't know why.
Speaking of Tom, actually, Tom is actually somebody who has said that winning Survivor, I believe it was him who said that winning Survivor is one.
Yeah, and during the Heroes versus Villains reunion, he says there is a lot of luck that goes into. He said social, strategic, and luck, I believe, are the three that he said. So, all right, so I said something positive about Tom Westman today. So, applause. On the other end of that, we get characters like Kelly. Kelly, who was my winner pick and my crush of the season. Yes, people, I know. I loved Kelly this season. I loved her. Her duo with Bruce came out of nowhere for me. Like, as it progressed, I'm like, wow, they actually are tight. Even though she's very almost everything that he does, you can tell that they are still like this. And we could say a trio because Kendra is also a part of it. We don't have to dwell on her too long because I do want to get to a few other things, specifically her tribal council. Hart, what are your thoughts on Kelly?
Oh my gosh. I adored her. I thought she had all the ability to get to the end, no issues at all. Like I said, I think they blindsided her at the exact right time they needed to before she got any momentum. So was her and Bruce as tight as they were though? Because did Bruce know that she was voting for Jake when she went home? See, I feel like Bruce thought they were close. I feel like Kelly was managing everybody else or trying to.
That's fair.
But yeah, so I think she's a really strong player. I think she's a really strong. I'm going to keep talking about Survivor 50. I've been talking about it for like days with people, but I think she's a very strong possibility for 50 from this season. Yeah, love her a lot.
Okay, and going into that tribal, I think there are signs. Obviously, there are signs in the episode that it could be Kelly. And she says that she has this gut feeling that something might happen. Ryan, how are they able to pull this off on her in a situation? In the way that it's shot reminds me so much of the Edgardo blindside in Fiji, with they just keep cutting to everyone's face, and as soon as that first Kelly vote comes up, she knows it's over. Like her face just goes. Jake's face goes, even because he thinks that it's going to be him. when that final Kelly vote is read, and Jake goes, "Whoa!" Everything about that tribal is great. So what were your thoughts on? Would you say that that's the best tribal of the season?
Of the season, possibly. I do think that the final 7 and final 6 are also great final tribals. I mean, not final tribal councils, but I think in terms of just the reactions, Jake's reaction, I love Jake's reaction. It's so, I love it. But I think just the way she went out, especially with like you said, the Edgardo vote, I think like it just shows like never get comfortable because like she was in such a good spot and she's just sitting, riding high, and then the Kelly vote comes and she's just like, what? And it just shows like she was definitely not anticipating that, and neither was Jake, which is what makes it so good. I think it just speaks like to the idea that like, if you're at the top, you can never really ride that position for too long, and it's only a matter of time before everyone else sees that, and it's kind of just like, all right, well, it's time to get rid of this person. I think I give a lot of credit to Drew for being able to pull that move off and kind of pulling in Jake from the bottom and saying like, well, maybe there's a way I can save you because it's going to benefit both of us. So I really liked it.
And I think that it assisted with that move too, that it was already a tight-knit group of 4, and then they pulled in Emily, who has already had the 3 with Austin and Drew. So they were able to do that by just sitting back and just shutting the hell up. Yeah. And I think that's what really helped.
I want to touch on this. So mad Fabio won because of 2 stupid quitters. Chase would have won. I actually don't think that Purple Kelly voted for Fabio, but Neonka definitely did. My whole thing with that is I don't want to live in a world where Chase Rice wins Survivor. Sorry. I don't want to live like I'm being facetious once again, but like I'm cool with Fabio winning because Fabio in that season, it's like, okay, yeah, just give me a Fabio win. Just why not? The season is horrible. Just it's very similar to Gabon. So yeah, just give Dr. Bob. Fine. Give me Gabler. Fine. Like it's all good. Just let's move on. I
try to think of anything 21 to 24. I try to like get out of my head very quickly. So
yeah. We talked about that months ago, weeks ago. Drew or Basile, as he says in his first confessional. Or yes, there are 2. I know I talked to you yesterday, and I think most of the 40s about how I don't like that archetype, the skinny white guy nerd archetype. Drew is one that falls into the Christian category of one in that archetype that I actually enjoy. And I didn't like him the first time. Today, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. And I think it's because I know he doesn't make it to the end, that I'm all right with it. I know he's going to have a downfall, and I think that's what stuck with me today. But I didn't dislike Drew this time around. And I know that he's got a large fandom now because of his Jeopardy appearance, and people tend to really like him. But, I think he's a better person in this archetype than Carson from yesterday. I'm not a Carson person, as I mentioned. I think he's better than the sweater. What was it? The turtleneck kid from HHH, Ryan.
Ryan.
I think he's better than the Jamoke that we're going to get tomorrow, even though, I will always say I really appreciate what Charlie said at the reunion where he says, hey, if you win, you win. And I'm like, yes, Charlie, because the people on the internet are not going to buy anything that you are saying right now because they think that you deserve to win because of reasons. I don't really have any deeper thoughts than Drew. What I'll do is, Hart, if you want to talk about a specific player that we haven't talked about yet, please go ahead. And then Ryan
will talk about Caleb.
Well, go ahead.
Caleb is I think the personality of this season, and the first successful shot in the dark, where everybody voted for him, and that was an incredible moment. That was a top 10 moment for me of the new era by far. But just his character in general, though, him being against Emily from the beginning and then getting together with Emily, and then the shot in the dark, it was just, I love Caleb. And I feel like a lot of the community loves Caleb, and they're like, bring him back now. So that's the only one we haven't talked about that sticks out to me.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, if I were to play like a player, it would probably be like Caleb. And yes, that was. I know I kind of jumped the gun saying that the Kelly boot was the best. It is actually the boot because of the shot in the dark being played successfully. Everyone, go buy a lottery ticket, and everyone is having a good time with it too, except for Jay because she knows that on the revote she's screwed. Everyone's, hyping Caleb up as it happens. It's very fun to see it happen in that moment. Ryan, is there you want to talk about? Go ahead.
I just want to touch up on Caleb because I love him as a character too, and I think like it's really unfortunate. Like he kind of drew the raw end of the stick on this season, where he was placed on a really bad tribe, and that kind of forced him to be kind of like the swing at the merge, which you might argue is a good position. But when you're somebody as sociable and likable as Caleb, and you're in the swing position at the merge, all eyes are kind of on you. And when everyone's trying to fight for the one guy, it comes to a point where it's like, well, we can just take this guy out because he's way too likable and he's a huge threat. And I feel like when he gets targeted, obviously he's able to kind of play a shot in the dark and rebound from that. But I feel like there really was no path left for him. So I think it just shows that like lowering your threat level is such a big thing because like Caleb was the guy that everyone saw coming from like a mile away. And like, I feel like he really didn't have a path forward. I think even the fact that like when he plays the shot successfully, everyone is so excited. Like it shows like they really do like this guy, but they just have to get him out because he's just way too likable to, they don't want him to gain any traction. So I love Caleb. Also want to touch up on Drew because I know you said that Drew is kind of one of these archetypes. You don't like the archetype, but Drew is somebody that you at least tolerated. I do think that while Drew does have a lot of fans, he also has a lot of people that hate him. He's very polarizing, which is what I do like about him. And I think he's a very underrated player from this season. I think because he was kind of given like the villain edit, no personal content, kind of making snarky remarks. He's kind of shown from that like more like villainous side. But I do think he really like does play a really good game. And I feel like his downfall in the game really does come at like the incompetencies of Austin as an ally and him kind of not prioritizing the game. So I
You're really not a fan of Austin, are you?
No.
And I love Austin. This is killing me. No, but I will say though, with the nerd archetype that we're talking about, I think Drew's the first one though that was a villain from that archetype, if he's in that archetype. And I think that's kind of not that I can remember, but like I think that would be interesting to see
because he was just annoying.
Yeah, he was. But but Drew like really emphasized like the villain edit of that, and I loved it personally. Like I agree with you. Like I knew at some point like he was gonna be his downfall though. But I will say though, I'm not gonna blame just Austin for him going home. I do think he got a little overconfident too. So he was like, no, they're not gonna take me out. And sure enough, they were looking at you, bud.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like D is a villain in this season, and she's never portrayed like. I understand that winners are supposed to get more positive content, and she doesn't get negative content. I would say that if they were to do another Heroes, there's definitely be on the villain side of that because she is very. I got to do this. Like you got to go, and yet she is still able to make it through the entire game without voting for either one of her number ones, which was brought up in the chat, and she brings it up during Final Tribal. Sabaya, yes. So she flames out in the most spectacular fashion, and I don't think that it's not who's a flame out that it's like, okay, yeah, that's your fault. We can even do JT in Game Changers. It's like, okay, that's a flame out that's all on you, fam.
Jacob from Ghost Island. Jacob from Ghost Island.
Jacob from Ghost Island. Okay, and I'll give you that. Sabaya here, she's in a great spot, even though Emily immediately tries to put the target on her and Caleb because she thinks that they got an advantage, when they went and do the sweat and savvy. Sabaya finds an idol. Well, she finds it along with, but she does it. She is able to get, before we jump to the actual tribal, the fact that she sees Caleb as the threat, which we've all talked about. She sees Caleb as a threat, and it's like, hey, if we do this now, then he doesn't have a chance to bond with these other folks. They can't take credit for this, that, and the other. Let's do it now. And Emily sees this as the opportunity, and this is the birth, I would say, of Emily in the second half of the game, even though it's still pre-merge. And she says, "Hey, you will go home if you don't do this." And Caleb's like, "I know that Katura, or not Katura, Jesus, am I racist? I think that Sabaya, was supposed to tell Emily that it was my name because I wasn't here. But if she's telling me that this is the case, I might have to do it." That entire tribal with Sabaya showing up and immediately throwing the wax into the fire, and basically while Jeff is talking, she has Sean come over to like pour water on it after she pulls it out. It's so great. And then she goes, she doesn't vote, she banks her vote, and she goes home. And it was such a fun episode as a whole. But that tribal council, which once again, I'm gonna continue to stick with the Kelly thing, even though I keep contradicting myself now. That tribal council was amazing because it's more of hey, we probably know what's going to happen here, and this is going to be hilarious. Thoughts on Sabaya as a pre-merge character, in the bubble of the new era, but just in the bubble of all time. Like, I know people like to say, "Oh, new era, old era," but like all time, Sabaya is a very memorable pre-merge character.
Oh, 1000%. That whole tribal council was so ridiculous. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, why are you sitting there? I mean, I understand you didn't have fire, you had to find a way to burn the idol, but why are you burning the idol when you think you're safe? Like, she had no clue she was going. Like, she thought Emily was getting the other vote and Caleb was going home. Why are you sitting there burning the idol now? Do it when you need it. Just keep it in your little pouch or whatever. It's fine. But she was so extra doing that and be like, "We all good, guys? We all good? Okay, cool, let's go." And then goes on. Like, it was out of control. And then, I'm sorry, but this is petty as hell, but the "Who Lulu" chant, that drove me crazy. Like, I'm sorry. Dumbest name of the tribe ever.
That was pretty cringe. It was pretty cringe.
Very cringe.
Right. I think Sabaya is like the classic example of like somebody just getting a little taste, a little sliver of power, and then completely overplaying all their hand, putting down every single Uno card they have. And it's just like, why are you doing all this? Like, it's day 7. Why are you voting out your closest ally as a threat to win the game? I mean, to be fair, Caleb is pretty much pegged as the guy to beat for the whole season. But like, it's way too early. And especially like when you're going to be going down to 3 people, like voting out your closest ally is just never a good decision. I think it's just like, I think she has a great flame out, but I don't even know, like, I know that person said that, she could return. I don't really know how much potential she has on a return. Like, if you're going to be playing like that so early, like, just the big move itis is just crazy. I don't know how much she can really bounce back from that.
But that early, exactly what you're saying, though, that early, this person's a huge threat to win the game. At Final 16? Like, who's the big threat to win the game at Final 16? Romeo. How did that work out on the merge? Yeah. You can't judge things based on that point.
Yep. Question: how did Jemiah not think she was at risk? Why did she not throw a vote on someone? I like Jemiah. She seemed really smart. She did seem really smart. Her entire pre-merge story arc, or the beginning of it, is her trying to decipher the what she thinks is a message on their flag, and then her getting pegged as the person that voted for Sifu, even though, like, I mean, yes, it's shot in a way, but like, I felt like Sifu should have probably caught on to the fact that it was D. Like,
we don't know. We don't know who voted Sifu. We have no idea. It's unknown to this day. I just love who voted Sifu. I love who voted. I'm just keeping it out there. Who voted Sifu? We don't know. So
it's to answer the question. What I'm assuming this is the revote after Caleb uses the shot in the dark.
Right. I mean, she could have thrown a vote though before that.
Oh, you mean when
Caleb lost the vote and everybody else voted for Caleb, No, I guess she didn't think that he was going to play a shot in the dark or something like that. I don't know why that's not taken into consideration though. But like, if she feels she's in danger, if something like that happens, throw your vote.
That's
I think
fair.
the reason why, I think the reason why she didn't do it is because, like, kind of at that tribal, like, the target was kind of on Caleb, and then he's kind of trying to deflect on the Reba girls, and he's like, I think we should vote for J Maya. And I think in her mind, it kind of became like, well, it's either him or me, and I basically need every vote I can get to kind of push it onto him. And I think the way the numbers work out, it was the final 13. So even if she had the majority and she threw a vote on someone else, it would have been a tie. So it could have been up in the air. I mean, if I was in her spot, I probably would have done the same thing just because I don't want to take it to a tie. I just think she was in a position where she thought that one vote could have made a difference. And she didn't think that every single person was going to be voting for Caleb. I think like she was almost like she overestimated how bad of a spot she was in, to where like had she just kind of relaxed and said like, you know, I'm really not in that bad of a spot right now on this initial vote. And she just had said, maybe I can just do this to be safe, she would have been better. But I think she maybe felt threatened by kind of Caleb's pitch at that tribal, and she said, you know what, I need every vote on Caleb I can possibly get.
I think this is going back to the Sabaya thing. No, I would say it's still big move-itis because she tries to go after her number one ally during the third round of a game because she's got to make a big move. And once again, for the however many days in a row, if you make a big move in Survivor and you make it very obvious, your ass is getting sent home next, unless your name is Tony and Kagayan, and that's pretty much it. You know, there's this perception in the Survivor community, and there's this perception in orgs that have to make crazy moves in order to win the game, when it's actually been proven on the show that you're more than likely going to win if you don't do that. Because what's going to happen is people are going to clock you, and you're going to go, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, but at least I didn't go out, you know, doing nothing. It's like, yeah, you probably should have, though.
I think that's why people get frustrated with. I think that's why people get frustrated with Survivor these days, though, because like all the strongest players are always getting taken out, and then not this season, but like some seasons we get left with a final three of like who deserves to win this game? Like, what do they do? You know what they did? They didn't make themselves known. That's what they did, and some people just don't like that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, and I understand as an audience, I always appreciate social winners and social players. So like, for me personally, I don't need to see crazy moves. Like, they're fun when they happen, but I don't need to see that. But I also understand that I am just one person, and a lot of people want to see that kind of stuff. And I feel like a lot of people that go out and play know that people want to see that kind of stuff and try to do it. The problem is they run into a situation where they do it too early. Like I said, or like all of us have said, in Sabaya's case, that was it. Like, make a move on Caleb a little later. Do what Shannon Ricard did in 41. They knew for a fact they were going to target each other at one point. But did they target each other pre-merge? No. Even though every round it was like, I don't know if they're going to vote against me. I don't know. And then they're the only two left. And then they go to the merge. And at one point, Ricard finally deals with Shan. And we kind of go from there. And I think that D is someone that proves in this season, and people have brought up in the comments, and y'all have brought it up here, you don't have to cut your number one. You don't have to. And in fact, she even says, the round that Julie's going home, she knows that Julie's going home, and she's still going to risk not voting for Julie because she didn't want to do it. And she vocalized to Austin, I'm not voting that way, but I understand that Julie is going home right here. And then I won't say drags Austin to the end, because I don't think that any of the three of the people got dragged to the end, or at least the two losers. I don't think either one of them were dragged to the end. I don't feel like you have to necessarily get rid of your person up until maybe Final Four fire making, which we see in Ghost Island. Like, if you want to go at that point, that's fine, because at that point, you're not really voting them. It's like, okay, I'm just not taking you. Sorry. That's how I feel about Sabaya. I think she's great, but she went out. She went after someone too early. We get our two quits. I don't want to dwell on them too much, but I did feel for Brandon. He was, and this is no pun intended, but he was very much a fish out of water with a lot of the stuff that was going on, starting with him not being able to get out the boat onto the bigger boat. It's just him falling on the rocks, walking back to camp, just everything. You really feel for the guy, and he's not he falls in between the two quits. It's what's her face and Sean.
Yeah.
And what I forgot about those two is they don't traditionally quit. They are still voted out of the game ish. But they both asked to be voted out. Do you feel like they should be? This is very much an opinion question. Do you feel like they should be given the courtesy of being voted out in that situation, or should it just be okay, deuces?
I mean, I feel like I'm not sure how I feel because with the Hannah situation, she verbalized that she wanted to go home, but I feel like the thing that I noticed in both of those tribal councils is that there was a different plan going into it. And then once they get there, this person's like, actually, I want to go. So there are people in the game that are like, no, like we can't let this happen. Like there's someone else that we want to send home. Like maybe you can quit after, but we want to get rid of this other person first. So I'm surprised that Jeff kind of just said like, at least for Hannah, he said like, all right, well, let's just verbalize it. Are you voting for Hannah? Are you voting for Hannah? Instead of just telling her like, you can just come and bring me your torch. Like you can get out. And even with Sean, like Sean basically tells him like, I want to go home. And Jeff is like, we're still going to vote because Dee wants to get rid of Sifu. So I'm surprised he took it that way, especially knowing how much he hates quits.
They gave Hannah the Varner treatment. Like they gave it's
just like the Varner treatment by any means, but I mean I'm not the one thing that I wished he'd do quits back like he did in like old school days. Is just like bring me your torch, lay it down. We're gonna keep it there. Like you want to go, get out. Like I want to see that. The only thing that I get frustrated with the quits though is the Survivor community saying like they just took a spot from people who applied who wanted to be there, and then I don't respond back to them because then I'm gonna get into a Twitter fight. But I'm like, there's a reason you're not casted and this person is because they're a character and you might not be. So deal with it. Yeah. But
they didn't take your spot.
Exactly. Relax, bro. But it is frustrating in a sense though because it kind of just derails the gameplay in a way because like especially with the Sean one. Well, both of them actually they weren't going home that round. Like they were fine, but it just derailed some people's gameplay though, and that gets frustrating to see.
Yeah, and we have those. We have Brandon's and you can tell that. I mean, obviously, you can tell that most of these people are big fans of the game, and he takes it kind of like how Charlie takes it in 42. It's like, yeah, this sucks that I'm out this early, but I think he thanks Jeff for giving him the opportunity, and I really enjoyed that. Brandon, who comes from the LRG side of the community, I think that he was a fun represent. I think he was for me a better representation than Jacob Derwin was, even though Jacob Derwin was a character all on his own. Jeff got soft. He never would have been so kind to quitters in earlier seasons.
Exactly.
We're still very much in the Jeff is goofy era now. Like we've had Dick Jeff. We've had, other types of Jeff, and now we're in this man is corny because he's 62 years old, Jeff. As we start to wrap up, I do want to talk about, because it's going to be probably an ongoing thing tomorrow. I want to get y'all's opinions on the new era as a whole, because I understand the new era is polarizing with a lot of fans. Like I said, I'm on the positive end of I like more new era seasons than I don't like. I think the score right now is what? How many are there? 5? Are there 5 new era seasons? Yeah, 41 through 46. I think the score is 4-1 right now as far as seasons that I enjoy compared. But either way, what are y'all's thoughts on this new era?
I mean, when the twist for the new era like came out, obviously there was a lot of disappointment, and I'll be honest, I was definitely one of those people. And I think just like the way that 41 was introduced with how the twists were edited and they took so much screen time, I feel like that really soured people, and like people didn't really give it a chance to kind of improve. And I feel like even throughout 43 and 44, they may have changed some things, but the same flaws were there. And I think the thing that people didn't like was just the cast wasn't getting a chance to not only like play the game naturally, but like show themselves naturally to the audience. And I think like a big alleviation that 45 and 46 have with the 90-minute episodes is that kind of relieves some of that tension that's kind of tightly packed into episodes with the twists. And it gives the players the opportunity to kind of maybe even like incorporate the twists more, but we just get more of that camp life and just dynamics that we were missing. So I feel like a lot of that hatred or vitriol towards the twist has been somewhat alleviated because we got more of what we were missing when those twists were so prevalent.
And I will say the reason that 45 is like one of my favorites of the new era is because they brought back the one thing that I love, which was the tribe swap. And not what 44 did, it's sending one person. Like, we actually got the tribe swap, and we need that back again. So, like, that's some things that they took away. Oh, and the auction. We didn't talk about that either. They brought the auction back, and I loved that. I didn't love, like,
whoever they made to the auction were great as well. I like how they changed.
I didn't like how whoever had the most money lost their vote. I think that kind of makes basically who has the most money basically like putting it all in for whatever it is, it's fine. But like I love the idea of them having to go through the jungle to get the money. I loved that. And like I said, they brought some classic things back for 45 though, and that's what I want to see back. But like I do think like it's the new era is so advantage heavy though that I think it can take away from the gameplay, and I think that's why it's so polarizing. Like I'm like a new era person. Like give me like 1 to 2 idols in the game. Cool, I'm fine. But or an old school person, I don't know what I said. But the new era though is just very I'm indifferent. There's definitely seasons that I like. Like I like 45 and I like 42. The rest of them I don't like that much. But if we got some old school elements back in there, kind of like they did in 45, then I'm going to be all about it. I'll get more into it.
And I would say with the auction, the biggest thing, because much like someone asked yesterday, how do we feel about Survivor players basically breaking challenges? You know, what Carson was doing last season, and I brought up the auction as far as the reason that the auction, in my head, the reason the auction went away is because people started gaming it. You know, especially by 30, where it's like, okay, everyone's going to sit out for the advantage, so like, who gives a shit? And so here, I appreciate the fact that they just didn't put any advantages in it. It's like, no, this is all food. Exactly. And like, we're just going to do food, and we're going to make, and it lasted a pretty long time as far as like what we were being shown. I do agree. You know, I feel like the advantages kind of plague this, but as I mentioned a couple days ago, this has been escalating since before 40. This has been going on since like 32, maybe 31, where they just kept adding one more, they just keep on adding stuff to it. And it's like, okay, then we get the game changers, and we're here. Then we get things like the Idol Nullifier in David versus Goliath. You know, we get an Edge of Extinction, we get a lot of stuff. And then when we get to Winners at War, we get fire tokens. And then we get an extortion advantage. And then we get into 41. And now we're off to the races because we have slowly just let them get away with it to the point where, oh, okay, well, the fans clearly love all of this, so let's just.
Do they know? Do they all love it?
Yeah. Overall, I mean, I really enjoy the new era the last few days. Yeah, you know, some of the pre-merges are not as fun, but like Ghost Island's pre-merge isn't fun. HHH pre-merges isn't fun. You know, there's a lot of seasons that pre-merges are not fun, and I think that's the point. You're just building up the story. Overall, I'm gonna give Survivor 45 a 4.25 out of 5, and that will put it. Oh goodness, where are my glasses at? 4.25 out of 5. I'm gonna put it in between. That's hard. I'm going to put it in between Survivor 42 and Borneo, and it'll be my 13th ranked season. All right, final question. Oh, I guess there are two final questions now. One, who would be on y'all's DVD cover for the season?
Let's think about it this way. We have D, top. I think
D's
we have a
the
perfect.
top.
Yeah, we have Austin in the bottom because of
No,
perfect.
Austin's right there next to D. They have to be right next to D because of the showmans.
Well, no, like I thought like the bottom person was like the next like biggest character. Or was it the one? I'm not sure.
Get them in order. Just pick 6.
Okay, D, Austin, Drew, Emily, Caleb, Bruce.
Okay.
I would replace Bruce with Kelly.
Okay.
But I agree with the rest.
Honestly, I would probably go D. Oh, now you guys have me doing it. I will do D, Kelly, Drew, D, Kelly, Drew, probably Austin, Jake, and I'm very tempted to say Caleb. I'm not going to say Caleb because he is, the first juror, but screw it. It's my list. I'm going to put Caleb. And then finally, and I know both of y'all have alluded to this throughout the night, Ryan, if you had to pick 2 people from this cast to come back for 50, who would it be?
I'm picking Drew, and I'm picking. You know what? Let's give Brandon a chance. Either of the Brandons, Brandon or Brando, give them both a chance.
Okay. Hart.
All right, watch for the eye roll on Ryan real quick. Bringing back Austin. Give him a chance at that is showmans. And then Emily. Those are my 2.
Yeah, did I put Emily on my cover? I don't think I put Emily on my cover. I'm gonna replace Caleb and put Emily on my cover. For me, it would be Emily and Kelly. It'd be Emily and Kelly, just because I don't really want winners back for that specific season. Now, obviously, I would have D if they were doing that, but Emily and Kelly by far, with honorable mention to Caleb. Just don't be so nice to these people. And he's Canadian, like he had no shot. He's a nice Canadian. I guess a nice Canadian won 41 and 42. So, okay. So everyone, this is the plan for tomorrow. Everyone in the chat and everyone listening to this afterwards. I will be doing a 13-ish hour live stream starting at 8:30 in the morning EST. I'm going to be, obviously, I'm not going to have it I'm not going to have it shown because we'll get flagged. I will be having people everyone that has joined me throughout this entire process. I've sent the link out to everyone except for these 2, which I'm going to send it to y'all afterwards. At any point throughout the day, if you want to hop in for an hour or 4 or 2 minutes or whatever, just to talk about anything, but specifically 46, if you can, that'd be great. Everyone, this has been a very fun journey. My energy level has very much gone down, but I've survived, and I only have 1 more day to do. Then I won't have to watch Survivor again until September, so a month or 2. Hart, Ryan, thank you both so much for reaching out to do this season specifically. It's been a blast, and we talked about it for an hour and 20 minutes. I think that's everything. So we will see you all on the other side.